ground invasion.
Let's focus now on Hamas's objectives after launching its attacks in southern Israel. Live now to Kamran Bokhari, who's Senior Director of the Eurasian Security and Prosperity Portfolio at the Newslines Institute and an expert on Islamic extremism. And just, if you can, Kamran, talk to me a little bit about where we think Hamas's objectives now lie, given what we've seen over the last few days.
So, Mariam, I think Hamas, on one hand, wants to see an escalation. The more that Israel, ferociously comes in and large-scale offensive that leads to the deaths of innocent lives, that works for Hamas. They planned it this way. They knew what they were getting into. But the question remains, what becomes of Hamas itself? How does Hamas come out of this on the other side still intact? And that's sort of the tricky question here. I don't think that, when they were planning this, that they, had a sense of the extent to which they would be able to cause havoc inside Israel. And because you're never able to do that, plan that. You plan for certain things, and then there are unintended consequences. And the kinetic battle space is very different than the planning stage. So now they know that there's going to be regime change, and which is why the northern half of the Strip is basically being targeted right now by the IDF to go in, set up shop there, and dismantle the regime. How they defend themselves is the big question. And I think that that's sort of where they're going to take a severe hit. I mean, I don't want to go too far to say that Hamas will be eliminated, but I think that it's safe to say that when all is said and done, that they will no longer be ruling Gaza.
And did they not know this when they launched their attack? Did they not realize this is what would happen?
So it's a bit complicated there. It depends on, Hamas is not a monolithic entity. Obviously in the leadership, there are different people who are making decisions. They have different opinions. They have their own estimates of how they see what their attack will produce. Definitely, they wanted a massive retaliation. But then, of course, there are miscalculations. It happens all the time. Sometimes there's overestimation. I mean, there's that phrase called catastrophic success. That you perform from your point of view far better than you expected, and you haven't planned for that. So I think it's a mixed situation.
What happens next?
I think what happens next is we have to wait and see just how the IDF counteroffensive is going to proceed. What is going to be the death toll of civilians? How quickly can the IDF dismantle the Hamas regime? What will be Egypt's cooperation, considering that more than 1 million people are being pushed into the southern end of the Strip near the border with the Sinai Peninsula? What will happen with the diplomacy that's going on? The United States is leading that effort, and then other actors are involved in it as well. So there are so many variables right now. And then, of course, the big question of a second front by Hezbollah. So these are all the uncertainties. And then, of course, there's the intelligence failure that it has consequences for the counteroffensive, that if you couldn't detect that this was going to happen, you didn't know about it, then how good is your intelligence in terms of actually pushing ahead with your own counteroffensive? So a lot is up in the air, and we just have to wait and see what happens.
I suppose the big fear now, especially on the side of the US, is that this spreads out to become a regional conflict.
Indeed, and that is what the U.S. is trying to do through, diplomacy, through a show of force. The fact that, the Pentagon decided that they will keep the USS Eisenhower carrier battle group in the Eastern Mediterranean alongside the USS Ford suggests that, they are not sure, that at the very least, they're not sure what the intentions of Hezbollah and Iran are. They helped their Palestinian proxy get to this point. They also have a problem in the sense that if they just step aside and let Hamas bear the brunt of the Israeli counteroffensive, then that undermines their credibility and their standing in the region. So it's one of those moments where every side is wondering what the other side is doing, And the reality is that no side actually knows what they will do moving forward. It's hour by hour, day by day.
Kamran, thank you very much indeed for joining us.